Hey guys, and welcome back. Not a lot of action today in college basketball for December 12th, 2016. Just 4 games that you can place action on today, and we're going to be covering each of them in order in this video. If you're interested in more content beyond just what I talk about in this video on college basketball, you can head on over to stumpthespread.com and get our daily free play or our premium picks over there. And you can get over there by clicking this icon here in the top right hand corner if you're on desktop. I'll also link Stump the Spread in the description. We actually had a lot of success yesterday with the NFL going 4-0 against the spread, as well as our basketball plays in the NBA. Oklahoma City came through for us against the spread, as well as our 2 college basketball plays. Alabama was able to cover the spread as the free bet, and Florida State came through against the spread as our premium college bet yesterday. Over at Stump the Spread, you can get our daily free plays through this free picks tab or on the scroller here. The first thing in the scroller is our free play, as well as our premium picks. If you're interested in those, you can get an all sports package to get our top confidence plays across all major American sports, or if you're just looking to specialize in one particular sport, you have options for those as well. But the all sports package is by far our most popular package, just given the fact that it gives you instant access to all of our picks. And this time of year, we get the NFL, college football bowl picks coming up, NBA, college basketball, as well as NHL going on right now. MLB being the only major sport right now out of season in America. So pretty fun time of year for sports fans. And if you can, click that thumbs up or subscribe button. It really helps us out and is greatly appreciated. If you're a subscriber, you can get notifications of when we release these videos in the future. Sometimes these spreads can shift around a little bit, and to get that early edge against the spread before it maybe changes against our favor, you can get those picks earlier on in the day before things kind of change around. Alright, so just 4 games to talk about here. Starting with Penn against Central Florida. In their last outing, we really liked George Mason in their game against Penn. That game was just a few days ago. Pennsylvania actually went into that matchup as about 3 to 4 point favorites, which was a little bit surprising considering the fact that George Mason has been playing some really good ball, especially on the road, and that came to fruition as George Mason went on to win that one by 19 points in a game that they were actually underdogs in against Pennsylvania. Vegas might be overvaluing this Penn squad a little bit. They've been very inconsistent on the offensive side of the ball, and that was the case again the other day against George Mason at home, as they only went on to score 60 points in that particular matchup. And offensive consistency is not what you want to have when going on the road against this UCF squad. Central Florida, they currently rank 2nd in the nation in total defense, giving up around 55 points per game. We really liked this Central Florida group to overperform their expectations coming into the year. Maybe not, making the NCAA tournament, but maybe making a run at the NIT. And anything above that would just be pretty impressive for this group. But B.J. Taylor being out right now hurts Central Florida. The Knights last year, they played the entire year without B.J. Taylor, and it hurt them, but at least that experience that they had last year without their starting point guard can maybe kind of cushion the blow that this will have. B.J. Taylor is expected to possibly get back by the time conference play rolls around, which is something to keep an eye out for. But the Central Florida group, they brought back A.J. Davis from injury recently, and that can also kind of help things out here. A.J. Davis, he has the ability to distribute the ball even at that forward position, and he played a lot of minutes in his last outing, and that's a good sign. That was his 3rd game back, and he's really getting back into the swing of things. He's going to be really important to this team's success going forward. B.J. Taylor is their leading scorer right now, so not having him on the court does hurt, but Central Florida does still bring that defensive intensity here going against a Penn squad that hasn't been showing all that impressively on the offensive side of the ball as of late. Penn's likely going to really struggle finding consistent buckets here, and it's just going to be up to UCF to probably score in the 65 to 75 range to have a pretty solid shot at winning and covering this 9.5 point spread. UCF is really daunting on the defensive end, particularly because their center is 7'6", Taco Fall, and he's just really a monster down low. He can change shots and really kind of change the offensive game plan for teams, as you just can't get the typical looks down low that you're able to get when going against a center that's not 7'6" with just ridiculous wingspan. So that's something to look out for in this one. So behind their home court advantage, we do like UCF to come through here as they go on to win and cover this 9.5-point spread as a pretty solid value bet. Moving on to Auburn against Boston College. This one's going to be played on the neutral site over at Madison Square Garden. Coming into the year, we did like this Auburn group to perhaps overperform a little bit from their expectations. This is a team that a lot of people picked to finish more in the lower tier of the SEC, but we wouldn't be surprised to see Auburn more in the mid-tier and maybe make a push at perhaps the NIT or something like that. Auburn, a lot of people aren't that high on this group given the fact that they lost some veteran talent this past offseason, but a lot of other guys have been stepping up, and head coach Bruce Pearl, he's slowly but surely been recruiting his guys and implementing his system at Auburn. Their turnaround hasn't been quite as quick as he would have liked or expected when he first took the job at Auburn. Head coach Bruce Pearl has had a lot of success in college basketball. At his previous stops at Wisconsin, Milwaukee, and Tennessee, he had just tremendous amounts of success at both of those schools, and he hasn't been able to have all that much success thus far at Auburn, but he is slowly turning things around there for a basketball program that hasn't really had all that much success in recent memory. Bruce Pearl has his team off to a pretty solid start so far this year. This is a manageable game for them to pick up. Auburn does rely a lot on three-point shooting, which can be very hit or miss, and that's not always necessarily what you want to side with when giving a lot of points in a particular game. But this Boston College team, they were just terrible last year, especially in the ACC. They were just the doormat of the conference, and that's probably going to be the case again this year for this Boston College basketball program that's just really fallen off over the past half decade or so. Boston College actually loses some of their better players from last year's team that really struggled, and this group is likely going to have a really tough time finding wins in the ACC again this year. Auburn, they've gotten off to a pretty nice start, and they do have to travel a little bit further to get to this neutral site than Boston College does, but we don't think that's going to have too much of a factor in this one. We do like Auburn giving the 9.5 points here as the better bet. Even though this one has shifted up from 7 to 9.5, we're still a little bit more confident in Auburn giving the points here as a better bet, just given what we've been seeing out of both of these teams so far this season. Moving on to one of the more intriguing matchups of the night, and that's going to be South Carolina against Seton Hall. South Carolina was the last undefeated team in college basketball last year before losing much later on into the year. A lot of their early success had to do with the fact that South Carolina went against a really easy non-conference slate, and that easy non-conference slate was one of the main reasons why the Gamecocks were not able to make the NCAA tournament last year. Some think that they were robbed, but when you just look at their whole body of work last year, they really didn't deserve making the big dance. South Carolina has changed their non-conference to make it a little bit tougher this go-around, and so far so good for South Carolina. They've been picking up some pretty nice wins, particularly their wins against Michigan and Syracuse thus far have been pretty strong. Unfortunately for the Gamecocks, they do stand undefeated and in the top 25 right now, but the downside is right now Sindarius Thornwell is out, and he's the leading scorer for the Gamecocks. This is a really big blow to them given the fact that South Carolina's offense hasn't been all that consistent this year. They've really leaned on their defense to kind of carry their team, and without the offensive punch that Sindarius Thornwell brings to the table, that can just make things that much more difficult for their offense to put up consistent numbers. It'll be interesting to see what they're able to do here against this Seton Hall group. Seton Hall, they went to the NCAA tournament last year. They do lose their best player with Isaiah Whitehead, who moved on to the NBA this past offseason, but Seton Hall does return pretty much all their other key pieces from that group, and Seton Hall could make another run at the NCAA tournament this year. The Pirates, they've been putting up some decent results thus far, but they could always use some more non-conference resume-building wins before heading into the Big East. It's really important to kind of bolster your non-conference RPI before going into a really difficult conference like the Big East, because wins are just really tough to come by in that particular league on a consistent basis. So Seton Hall will be trying to do that today here against a short-handed South Carolina squad on the neutral site in Madison Square Garden. Seton Hall doesn't have to travel quite as far in this one as South Carolina. They might get a boost from the home court fan, or not home court fans, but their fans traveling over to MSG might make somewhat of a difference in this one. Not all that much, most likely. This one has shifted from South Carolina being slightly favored to now Seton Hall being slightly favored, and that has to do with Thornwell being out. We do like Seton Hall quite a bit here, just given the fact that the Gamecocks are going to be without their leading scorer. That's really probably going to have, or make things a lot more difficult on South Carolina in keeping pace on the scoreboard. This is a Seton Hall offense that can really put up a lot of numbers. You know, they might struggle to put up their averages in this one going against a pretty solid South Carolina defensive unit, but we really do like the Pirates here, giving the points as a strong value bet. And moving on to one of the less exciting matchups today, we have Jacksonville State against Maryland. Jacksonville State has opened the year 5-5 overall. You know, they haven't necessarily gone against the toughest schedule, but they have gone on the road quite a bit. This is going to be a really tough test for them going on the road against Maryland. The Terps, they lose 4 of their, you know, veteran players from last year's starting lineup, which is going to make this group not quite as good as they were a year ago. Maryland does return to Melo Trimble, who was probably their best overall player last year, and he's really having to shoulder a lot of responsibility to get the Terps headed in the right direction this year. Maryland has gotten off to a pretty solid start thus far, but a lot of that has to do with the fact that they've played a home-heavy schedule and maybe not necessarily going against the toughest slate thus far. It's going to be interesting to see what Maryland's able to do come Big Ten play. We do think that they're going to take a rather significant fall in the Big Ten this year after having quite a bit of success last year. This is a Maryland group that's a work in progress right now. They only have 1 defeat thus far, which came at home against Pittsburgh in what was not a great result for them. But, you know, this is a Maryland group that should be able to get the job done here today. Their home court advantage won't be what it typically is, most likely, given the fact that we're heading into the mid-December area when you get a lot of students taking finals or going home for the holiday break. You know, so we're not going to get quite the kind of home court atmosphere, especially going against a mid-major team like Jacksonville State. The crowd isn't going to be quite as big of a factor as it typically would be. Jacksonville State, again, they're expected to finish in the basement of the Ohio Valley Conference this year after really disappointing last year. A lot of was expected out of this group last year. They just didn't perform, and now this group doesn't return the same kind of talent that last year's team had. We do like Maryland to come through here against the spread, but, you know, long term, we're really not all that high on this Maryland squad, especially come Big Ten play. We're probably going to be siding against them more often than not, but we'll just see what kind of spreads they're given. But in this particular matchup, this spread has shifted down a little bit, and we do think that Maryland giving the points here is going to be the better bet on their home court overall. So that pretty much does it for this video. Not a lot of action on the board today in college basketball, but still some decent bets to be had nonetheless. Again, if you're interested, you can head on over to stumpthespread.com and get our daily free play, or upgrade and get all of our Top Confidence premium bets. And you can do that by clicking this logo here if you're on desktop, or we'll also link it in the description of this video. And if you can click that thumbs up or subscribe, it's greatly appreciated, and it just really helps us out. And that pretty much does it for this video. So thanks guys for watching, and we'll see you in the next college basketball pick video. Bye.